Stop being too kind. 7 types of people you should never help. We all want to help, right? It feels good to lend a hand, to be there for someone in need. But let's be real. Sometimes helping the wrong person can do more harm than good. You've probably been in a situation where you gave your time, your energy, your resources, and in return, you were met with disappointment, frustration, or worse, betrayal. Have you ever helped someone who didn't appreciate it? Or worse, someone who seemed to drain the life out of you without ever giving anything back? If you've ever felt like your kindness was taken for granted, or like your good intentions were twisted and used against you, then you know exactly what I mean. Sometimes helping others isn't always the right thing to do. But here's the thing, knowing when not to help is just as important as knowing when to step in. We've all been there, stuck in a cycle of helping people who don't really want to change, don't appreciate our efforts, or simply can't be helped. But what if I told you that there are actually 7 types of people that you should never help? This might sound harsh, but truth be told, there are certain types of people who will only drag you down if you continue to invest your time and energy in them. It's not about being selfish. It's about setting boundaries and protecting your emotional well-being. And here's the kicker. Knowing when to say no can actually make you a more effective helper, a more focused individual, and even a more compassionate person in the long run. Today, we're going to explore these 7 types of people. Those who might look like they need help, but really the best thing you can do is walk away. We'll uncover why it's so important to understand these dynamics, why people act the way they do, and how you can avoid being dragged into unhealthy, one-sided relationships. But this isn't just about recognizing toxic people. It's about understanding psychology, the deep-seated reasons why some people behave this way, and how their actions can affect you. If you've ever felt exhausted after trying to help someone, or like you're being taken advantage of, this video is for you. By the end of this, you'll not only know which 7 types of people to avoid, but you'll also learn valuable life lessons about boundaries, self-respect, and the power of saying no. So grab a seat because we're about to dive deep into the psychology of human behavior. And trust me, this one's going to be eye-opening. Number 1, the perpetual victim, emotional manipulators. We've all met them, the person who's always going through something, whether it's a broken relationship, a job loss, a health crisis, or just the feeling that life is always out to get them. The perpetual victim thrives on constant drama. They seem to be stuck in a never-ending cycle of misfortune, and no matter how much you try to help, things never seem to get better. This person's emotional state is always in crisis mode, and the more you try to support them, the more you realize they're not looking for solutions. They're looking for sympathy. Why you shouldn't help. It's incredibly draining to help someone who seems perpetually stuck in a negative mindset. No matter what you do or say, they never seem to make any progress. They'll ask for advice, but they won't take it. They'll complain about their situation, but they won't make an effort to change it. Instead, they'll continue to come to you with their problems, often without ever acknowledging how much emotional energy you're putting into trying to support them. This can become a toxic cycle. You'll find yourself emotionally drained, feeling like you're giving all you have to someone who's never going to change. And why? Because their victim mentality keeps them stuck. They've learned that playing the victim gets them attention, sympathy, and help. But what they don't realize is that this isn't real help. It's just enabling their dysfunction. Psychological fact. The perpetual victim often suffers from something called learned helplessness. This is a psychological condition where a person feels they have no control over their circumstances, leading them to become passive and dependent on others. Over time, they stop trying to change their situation because they've been conditioned to believe that nothing they do will make a difference. Helping them might give you a sense of doing good, but in reality, you're just reinforcing their inability to take responsibility for their own life. This is not empowering them. It's making them more reliant on you and others. They need professional help, not just another person to fix their problems. Life lesson. If you've ever felt like you're constantly helping someone who never seems to get better, it's time to step back. True support comes from encouraging someone to take responsibility for their life, not to keep them in a cycle of dependency. Don't feel guilty for stepping back. You are not obligated to carry someone else's emotional burden forever. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is let them figure it out on their own. Number 2, the energy vampire, narcissists and toxic people. Now, let's talk about a particularly draining type of person, the energy vampire. We've all encountered this type at some point, a person who sucks the life out of you. The more you give, the more they demand. It's like you're constantly pouring from an empty cup, and yet they always seem to want more. Energy vampires are narcissistic, manipulative, and toxic people who are only interested in you for what you can do for them. Why you shouldn't help. The energy vampire doesn't care about you. They don't care about your needs, your time, or your well-being. They are self-centered, and everything revolves around their own desires. They'll take and take, yet they'll never give anything back. You'll often find that after spending time with them, you feel exhausted, frustrated, and emotionally drained. This type of person is particularly skilled at manipulation. They will make you feel guilty for not giving them more, or they'll use your emotions to get what they want. They might make you feel like you owe them something, or they may even gaslight you into questioning whether you're being selfish for not helping them. But the truth is, they will never be satisfied. There is no amount of energy, time, or effort that will ever fill the void within them. Energy vampires don't want help. They want control. They want to manipulate the situation in their favor, and they'll keep sucking the life out of you until you realize you're emotionally bankrupt. Psychological fact. Narcissists and energy vampires have an inflated sense of self-importance, and they often lack empathy for others. They are experts in emotional manipulation, using tactics like guilt tripping, gaslighting, and playing on your fears to get what they want. Psychologically, they may also have narcissistic personality disorder, a condition that leads them to constantly seek admiration and validation while disregarding the feelings and needs of others. They also use others as sources of supply, people they can draw from to feel better about themselves. The more you give, the more they take. But the reality is, no matter how much you give, they will never be satisfied because their self-worth is dependent on others' validation. Life lesson. The best thing you can do when dealing with an energy vampire is to set firm boundaries. This type of person will never change, and they will always seek ways to manipulate you into giving them more of your time, energy, and emotions. Protect yourself from emotional exploitation. Learn to say no without feeling guilty. The more you continue to help them, the more they'll drain you. So, step away from the toxic cycle and focus on people who give as much as they take. You don't owe anyone your emotional well-being, especially not someone who can't even be bothered to consider yours. Number 3, the constant critic, perpetually negative people. Have you ever tried to help someone who just couldn't see the good in anything? No matter what you say, they have something negative to say in return. It's like they're permanently tuned into the worst possible scenario, and nothing you do can change their mind. These people are constant critics, the ones who always find fault in everything, from the smallest details to the biggest efforts. Why you shouldn't help. The constant critic is someone who never has a positive word to say. They'll point out your flaws, your mistakes, and the reasons why your efforts won't work, even if they have no idea what they're talking about. Every idea you present is met with resistance. Every good action you take is undermined by their negativity. It's like you're walking on eggshells, always wondering how they'll criticize your next move. But here's the truth. No matter what you do, you'll never please them. The constant critic isn't interested in finding solutions or even offering constructive feedback. They thrive on pointing out flaws, often to make themselves feel superior. If you try to help them, all they will do is tear down your efforts or even belittle your intentions. This type of person isn't just toxic to you. They're toxic to themselves. Their entire worldview is shaped by a negative lens where nothing ever seems good enough. And because they're constantly looking for faults, they are rarely open to change or growth. Psychological fact. Constant critics often suffer from a combination of low self-esteem and projection. They criticize others not because they see real flaws, but because they feel insecure about themselves. By putting others down, they create a sense of superiority and mask their own feelings of inadequacy. In psychology, this is known as projective identification, where a person projects their own negative feelings or thoughts onto someone else, often to avoid confronting their own issues. Another contributing factor could be cognitive distortions, patterns of thought that perpetuate negativity. The all-or-nothing thinking pattern is common, where they see things as either perfect or terrible, with no middle ground. This makes them critical of anything that doesn't align with their extreme view of the world. Life lesson. Helping a constant critic is a waste of energy. They'll never appreciate your efforts because their focus is always on what's wrong. The best way to deal with them is to distance yourself emotionally and mentally. Don't take their criticism personally. It's not about you. It's about their inability to see the world in a balanced way. Remember, you don't need approval from someone who never sees the good in anything. True help isn't about fixing a person's perspective for them. It's about supporting those who are willing to see things differently. Focus on people who will appreciate your input, not tear you down for it. Number 4, the drama magnets. We all know that person who thrives on drama, the one who always seems to have an emergency, a crisis, or some sort of chaotic event happening in their life. And not just any crisis. No, they always want to make sure you're watching. Whether it's through social media, text messages, or real-life conversations, they'll tell you all about their misfortunes, ensuring you're hooked on their every word. Drama is their currency, and they'll do whatever it takes to get your attention, even if it means creating problems out of thin air. Why you shouldn't help. The drama magnet isn't looking for real solutions. They're looking for attention. They want to be the center of the universe, and they'll create chaos just to ensure they get the spotlight. They'll start arguments, exaggerate their problems, and drag you into their emotional whirlpool to make you feel sorry for them. They need constant reassurance, and they thrive on drama because it's how they get validation. Helping a drama magnet is incredibly exhausting because their problems are never ending. They don't learn from their mistakes, and they don't appreciate the help you offer. As soon as you try to fix one issue, another one pops up. And it's not because they have genuinely bad luck or are going through real crises. It's because their drama addiction is so strong that they create new problems just to maintain the narrative of chaos. They live for the attention, and without it, they don't feel relevant. The worst part is, even if you solve their issues, they'll likely find another drama to latch onto, often pulling you in with them. Psychological fact. Drama seekers often have deep-rooted emotional insecurity and use drama as a way to gain attention and affection. In psychology, this is often linked to narcissistic tendencies or borderline personality disorder, BPD. People with BPD, for example, may engage in dramatic behaviors as a way to cope with intense feelings of abandonment or emptiness. They may crave constant validation and use dramatic outbursts as a way to regulate their emotions or feel seen. The need for drama may also stem from attention-seeking behavior that has been reinforced throughout their life. They've learned that the more chaos they create, the more they can control the focus of those around them. This behavior is often deeply ingrained and difficult to change, which makes it even harder for them to accept help without turning it into a drama show. Life lesson. Helping a drama magnet is like feeding an addiction. The more you give them attention or offer solutions, the more they'll create problems just to keep you engaged. If you find yourself constantly caught up in their emotional roller coaster, it's time to step back. The best way to deal with someone like this is to refuse to play the game. Don't respond to their dramatic outbursts or feed into their need for attention. When they start creating chaos, don't let yourself be pulled in. Set boundaries and don't feel guilty for not jumping in to solve their problems, because the reality is they don't want solutions. They just want to keep the drama going. Number 5, the self-destructive. People who sabotage their own success. We've all encountered someone who has all the potential in the world, but for some reason, they just can't seem to get out of their own way. They're constantly self-sabotaging. Whether it's procrastination, poor decisions, or not following through on their commitments, these individuals seem to have a natural talent for undermining their own success. They'll often come to you for advice, encouragement, or help, but when you provide it, they end up rejecting or undermining it themselves. Why you shouldn't help. The self-destructive person is often their own worst enemy. They want success, they desire a better life, but deep down, they believe they're not worthy of it, or they fear the responsibility that comes with it. As a result, they may push away opportunities or sabotage themselves when things are going well. This can be incredibly frustrating for anyone trying to help them. They'll ask for guidance, and you'll give them your best advice, only to see them make decisions that lead to the exact same problems they're trying to escape. Whether it's choosing toxic relationships, procrastinating on important tasks, or neglecting their health, they constantly repeat patterns that keep them stuck. Helping someone who engages in self-sabotage often feels like you're banging your head against a wall. No matter how much advice you give, no matter how many solutions you offer, they will continue to fall into the same traps. And if you try to intervene or correct their behavior, they may resent you or accuse you of not understanding their situation. Psychological fact. People who self-sabotage often struggle with low self-esteem or imposter syndrome. They may feel unworthy of success or happiness, believing that they will inevitably fail even if they do everything right. This is known as self-handicapping, a defense mechanism where individuals create obstacles to prevent success, thus protecting their self-image from failure. Additionally, self-destructive behavior is often a result of deep-seated fear of success, where the individual worries that success will bring unwanted attention, pressure, or responsibility. This can create a cycle where the individual unconsciously avoids success in order to protect themselves from these perceived risks. Life lesson. Helping someone who is consistently self-sabotaging can be emotionally draining and ultimately ineffective unless they are ready to break the cycle. People can only change when they decide to help themselves. The best thing you can do for someone in this position is to offer support and encouragement, but recognize that you can't change their mindset for them. They need to take the steps to help themselves and be open to changing their behavior. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is to step back and let them experience the consequences of their actions. Only then can they begin to realize that they are the ones standing in their own way. Number 6, the all talk, no action, chronic procrastinators and dreamers. We've all met them, the person who has big ideas, grand plans, and endless dreams, but when it comes time to take action, they freeze up or make excuses. These are the all talk, no action individuals. They're constantly talking about their future, their next big project, their goals, but never seem to make any real progress. They might ask for your help, and you might even believe they have the potential to succeed, but they just don't follow through. Why you shouldn't help. The all talk, no action person thrives on the idea of success, but they're terrified of actually doing the work. They're great at planning, talking about possibilities, and dreaming big, but when it comes time to get their hands dirty, they find reasons to put things off. Whether it's fear of failure, procrastination, or just a general lack of commitment, they rarely get anything done. When you offer to help them, it often feels like you're doing most of the work. They'll make promises to start something, but never follow through. And when the project stalls, they'll come to you for more advice, more motivation, more guidance, but again, no real action. At the core, they don't want help to actually achieve their goals. They just want someone to listen to their ideas and validate their dreams. They need someone to reassure them that their grand vision is worthy. But when it's time to take concrete steps, they disappear or fall back into their old procrastinating habits. Psychological fact. This type of person often has an avoidant personality and suffers from fear of failure or fear of success. They may also have low self-confidence, which makes taking action a daunting task. In psychology, this is related to self-handicapping, where they avoid taking action because they are afraid that if they fail, their self-worth will be diminished. Chronic procrastination can also be rooted in an inability to cope with the discomfort of uncertainty. They might want everything to be perfect before they start, or they're afraid of making mistakes along the way. This perfectionist mindset can paralyze them into inaction. Life lesson. Helping someone who is all talk, no action can be incredibly frustrating. You might see their potential and want to help them succeed, but the reality is, you can't do the work for them. You can offer guidance, support, and encouragement, but they need to take responsibility for their actions. The best thing you can do is to hold them accountable. Encourage them to start small and take incremental steps toward their goals. If they continue to resist action, it's time to set boundaries. You can't be someone's cheerleader forever. Sometimes, the most helpful thing you can do is let them sit with their own inaction until they are ready to take responsibility for their own dreams. Number 7, the chronic victim, people who always see themselves as the victim. We've all encountered the person who constantly plays the role of the victim. No matter what happens, they always feel like life is unfair and the world is against them. Everything that goes wrong in their life is someone else's fault, and they are never the ones responsible. The chronic victim will come to you seeking help, but it's important to recognize that they're not asking for advice. They're asking for validation of their misery. Why you shouldn't help. The chronic victim thrives on sympathy and attention. They have convinced themselves that bad things are always happening to them, and that life is always harder for them than anyone else. This mindset becomes a part of their identity. They're not necessarily looking for solutions or ways to improve. Instead, they're searching for someone to feel sorry for them, to affirm that their struggles are real and understandable. Every time you try to offer advice or help them get back on track, they'll tell you all the reasons it won't work or why they are too unlucky to succeed. They may even see your support as an obligation, assuming that you're just supposed to fix their problems. But no matter how much help you give, they'll find a way to turn it back on you. If things don't improve, they'll blame you for not providing the right advice, or they'll fall back into their victim mentality, looking for someone else to come to their rescue. Psychological fact. People who adopt a victim mentality often feel helpless or powerless in their lives. This can stem from past traumas, deep-rooted insecurities, or even a learned behavior from childhood. According to learned helplessness theory, if a person repeatedly feels unable to control the outcomes of their life, they may begin to believe that nothing they do will change their circumstances, which leads to a passive, helpless attitude. This can also be tied to narcissistic tendencies. Victims often want to receive attention and sympathy from others. By constantly framing themselves as the victim, they gain emotional leverage and control over how others perceive them. Life lesson. The key here is understanding that no amount of help or sympathy can truly lift the chronic victim out of their mindset. They must be willing to take responsibility for their life and their actions. Offering advice or support without addressing the root cause of their victim mentality is essentially just enabling their unhealthy patterns. Helping someone who constantly sees themselves as a victim can drain your energy and leave you feeling unappreciated. At best, your support can only provide temporary relief until they find another reason to complain or another excuse for their failures. And at worst, you may find yourself becoming their emotional punching bag, carrying the weight of their unprocessed pain and resentment. Sometimes, the best way to help them is to set boundaries. Don't let their complaints consume you. Encourage them to seek professional help, like therapy or counseling, where they can learn to break free from the victim mentality. Ultimately, the choice to empower themselves must come from within them. Conclusion. As we wrap up, let's reflect on the types of people you should never help, not because they don't deserve help, but because helping them can actually be harmful to your own growth and well-being. The narcissist, the energy vampire, the self-destructive, the all-talk, no action, the chronic victim, and even those who simply refuse to take responsibility for their lives. These individuals often bring more drain than gain to your life. They demand your time, your energy, your empathy, and your efforts. But in the end, their inability or unwillingness to change prevents them from ever truly benefiting from your help. It's important to understand that helping others is a powerful, compassionate act, but it is also limited. You can't change someone who isn't ready to change. You can't fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed. You can't rescue someone who isn't ready to take action on their own life. And by continuing to invest in these people, you may inadvertently be neglecting your own needs and stunting your own personal growth. So remember this: help is a gift, not an obligation. It's okay to say no. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to recognize that some people are simply not ready to accept help. That's not your fault. It's their journey. Here's the truth: you are not a savior. You are not here to fix everyone's problems. The most loving thing you can do for others and for yourself is to offer support without sacrificing your own peace. Don't waste your time trying to change people who are not ready for change. Focus your energy on those who are willing to grow, evolve, and take responsibility for their own lives. Your time, energy, and love are precious. Protect them. Invest in those who are ready to transform and grow, and don't let the chronic victims of the world drain you. Remember, life is a journey of choices, and you have the power to choose where you place your energy.